members of the Global Sport for All movement can empower girls and women in sport for all. So it's now time to start the workshop, but before we go any further, I would like to advise you that this workshop is being recorded, so please turn off your camera if you do not wish to appear on screen. Also, please note that later in the workshop we will be taking a big group photograph, so again, just keep your camera off if you do not wish to appear. So all of your microphones have now been muted by default to ensure that we can run through the workshop nice and smoothly today. If you wish to intervene at any point with a comment or a question, please raise your hand or feel free to make use of the chat box also, and we'll give you the floor and allow you to unmute when it's time for interventions. Finally, can everyone please update their Zoom name to let us know your first name, your surname and your organisation so that we know who is present today. So that is enough housekeeping for now, and it's finally time, without further ado, to kick off the workshop today. So it's my pleasure to introduce TAFISA Vice President of the Americas, Ms. Catherine Ford, who's currently joining us from Trinidad and Tobago. It's very early in the morning. So Catherine, it's a pleasure to have you with us. Catherine will be providing welcome words on behalf of the TAFISA Board of Directors. Catherine, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Carrie. Good morning to all participants and welcome. It is my pleasure to welcome you to what is a monumental moment in TAFISA's history, as we are here today to launch the inaugural workshop of the TAFISA Mission 2030 workshop series. Jobs, with each workshop connected to a theme of TAFISA's Mission 2030, for a better world through sport for all. These workshops will be held once every 2 months for the next 2 years and will be available to all stakeholders in the global sport for all movement. Each workshop is intended to reach different networks and expand our outreach, and will also be held with a selected partner that has something to say and to share on the specific theme. It is our honor today to co-host the workshop with the ITTF Foundation, that's the International Table Tennis, which represents a very progressive international sport federation and is also a TAFISA member. The ITTF Foundation has, within a few short years, managed to create a solid base, model, and example on how to use sport as a tool to reach the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. We thank you for your support. It is no coincidence that today, our International Women's Day, gender equity with the theme of girls and women's empowerment in sport for all, has been chosen to launch these workshop series. TAFISA recognizes the importance of not only increasing and enhancing opportunities for girls and women to undertake sport and physical activity opportunities, but also the necessity for equal representation at all levels, paving the way for future generations of women to have their voices heard. TAFISA, through Mission 2030, which is our answer to the SD, strives for a safe, equal future for all girls and women, free from inequalities, violence, abuse, and discrimination. As you can see, TAFISA is joined today with very special guests representing the importance of collaborations and partnerships to work to achieve our collective goals. This very first workshop welcomes guest speakers from TAFISA's very own global expert and special advisor for Oceania, Wendy Gillett, ITTF Foundation's Global Programs and Operations Coordinator, Julia Tappendorf, and Mariette Brethhauser, Nike's Made-to-Play Director for Social Community Impact. I would like to thank Julia, Wendy, and Mariette on behalf of the TAFISA Board of Directors for their own and their organization's close and dedicated partnership, which TAFISA is very grateful for. I would also like to extend special thanks to Nike for their ongoing support to TAFISA, which began since 2013, and to highlight the tremendous work that they have been operating, acting as an opinion leader and change maker, contributing to move the lines worldwide for girls and women play opportunities. This workshop has received over 300 registrations from over 100 countries, with interest coming from all corners of the world and organizations such as UNESCO, the IOC, the IPC, NOCs, international federations, ministries, universities, NGOs, all showing their desire to be part of the discussion today. TAFISA would like to thank all of the participants who have joined us today, and as we believe that together we are stronger in our quest for a better world through sport for all. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Catherine. It's now my honour to introduce Miss Julia Tappendorf, the International Table Tennis Foundation Global Programs and Operations Coordinator, who's joining us from Germany, who will be giving opening words on behalf of the Foundation. Julia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Carrie, and thank you, Catherine, for your welcoming words, and welcome everyone. I'm very happy to see that so many interested people are joining today's workshop. Gender equality has been on the agenda of the International Table Tennis Federation since 2003, when we held our first Women's Forum. For us, the ITTF Foundation, the equality of all gender identities means to ensure professional and social fairness, as well as equal opportunities. So we have to make sure to empower everyone, no matter gender, ethnicity, physical ability, etc. Females in participation, performance, and leadership. And there are still stereotypes towards women and girls, including a lack of education and also lack of opportunities, which we must tackle and address openly. Therefore, it is an honor for me to represent the ITTF Foundation and to commemorate today, the International Women's Day, with all the other great people representing the different kind of sports and different areas of sport. We, as the ITTF Foundation and also on behalf of the ITTF Group, we truly believe in the power of sport to contribute to social change. Therefore, it is also very important for us that we have strong partnerships like we have with TAFISA to join forces for the greater good, because only together we can achieve more.
Thank you so much, Julia. So before we move on, I'll just quickly introduce myself. My name is Kerry McDonald. I'm the Business Development and Fundraising Manager for TAFISA, and I will be moderating the workshop today, and I'm also based in Germany, just to give you an idea of where we're all positioned right now. So the objectives of the workshop are to provide a space and platform for members of the Global Sport for All movement to discuss and exchange on how we can collectively use sport to drive social change. Through the consortium of expert speakers, Attendees will receive insight, experiences, tools, ideas and methods on how girls and women can reach their full potential in sport for all. And finally, the workshop will provide not only knowledge and know-how, but also practical solutions and recommendations on how we can all empower girls and women in sport for all to achieve true gender equity. TAFISA is absolutely delighted that we are joined today by such fantastic speakers from all over the world. All speakers today have insight, experience and knowledge to share on empowering girls and women in sport for all. Alongside Julia, it's my absolute pleasure to introduce the other speakers. So we have Ms. Wendy Gillett joining us from Australia in her capacity as TAFISA's Special Advisor for Oceania. We have Ms. Mariette Brettauer, Made to Play Director, Social Community Impact, Nike, for Europe, Middle East and Africa, joining us from the Netherlands. We're also joined by 5 mentees from the European Commission, co-funded Female Leaders of Tomorrow programme, led by TAFISA, the African Union Sports Council Region 5, the European Network of Sport Education, and the Olympic Committee of Slovenia Association of Sport Federations. The 5 mentees we have joining us today are Ms. Carol Chanda Chipupu from Zambia, we have Ms. Kat from Germany, we have Ms. Onalena Tse from South Africa, we have Ms. Pumlele Insaneza from Eswatini, and Ms. Tinka Liskovic, from Slovenia. So, the order of speakers are, we're going to have our first 3 speakers will be given 15 minutes to present. I will then open the floor for 5 minutes of question and answers directly following the presentations. Please do not hesitate to use the chat function throughout the presentations or raise your hand during the open floor section. We will then have a final round of question and answers at the very end of the workshop today. Okay, Wendy, the floor is yours and I will be sharing your presentation.
Fabulous. Thank you, Kerry. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Julia. Well, happy International Women's Day, everyone. This is quite amazing and I can't really think of a better way to actually celebrate International Women's Day than with colleagues from around the world. I'm here today on Whadjuk land of Noongar Nation, the Aboriginal people of Australia on land that was never ceded, and I pay my respects to elders past and present. I'm really pleased to be here and see the first steps really, or some initial steps in TAFISA's work on gender equity as part of Mission 2030. And of course, it's not just through this seminar, but I know TAFISA is also working at the governance level, continuing to look at board membership, statutes and bylaws to create safe environments, as well as a myriad of projects related to women's empowerment. I'm very pleased to actually be involved in one of those in Oceania, in partnership with the Fiji Sports Association and TAFISA, a program looking at women's leadership through Sport for All, training the next generation of women in sport leaders in Oceania. And hopefully, COVID pending and international travel restrictions on, we will be able to get together towards the end of the year and progress that project. But I also take heart about what Catherine said, in that we are all through this time learning different ways to operate and to come together through an online mode. Today, I'm hoping to provide some insight based on my various roles working in government, community, and as an advisor to various organisations. And most of those organisations, if not all, gender equity policies and programs to make a difference over many years. Of course, some have been more successful than others. I'm going to try and outline what I think is needed to successfully empower women, some of the challenges, initiatives that have been put in place, and then finish off with key learnings all in 15 minutes, so wish me luck. I can have the next slide. So we are, of course, talking about sport for all. And importantly, Kerry, you just need to hit it. Yeah, great, just bring them all up. It is, the one that I've highlighted there is the most critical, of course. It's open, inclusive, and it is for everyone. And we have all seen the power of sport in addressing a whole range of social issues. I was actually on a webinar last week. Of course, this time of year around International Women's Day, there are a lot of opportunities to gather together, and Australia's longest serving sex discrimination commissioner, who's travelled a lot internationally, made a comment that when she first arrives in a country, one of the first things she looks for is actually women playing sport, because she thinks it's a great indication of the level of equality in a country and to get a sense of women's position. And I would agree wholeheartedly. I think it does give us a really good insight. So where do we start? Next slide, thanks Kerry. We start at the top. Women and girls need to be equally involved in all decision-making forums, in all areas of sport and sport for all, as board members, administrators, coaches, participants, not as tokens, not as the one that's there to make sure there's a woman in the room, but valued members. As Julia said, diversity is strength, and that's what we all need to be working towards. We need to be bold and be clear. We need to think about what needs to change and be clear. It's not women who are broken. We don't need to be fixed, but the system isn't working well enough for women, so how can we start to change that? We need a culture of inclusion, and I'll come back to culture because I think it's really critical, and there's certainly things happening in Australia around that at the moment. We need a culture of inclusion, of respect, integrity and stewardship. In Australia at the moment, there's been a lot of attention on sexual violence and systemic harassment. What's pleasing at this time is that the old and common historic response, women should be careful about what they wear, what they drink, where they go. There's now growing awareness that actually we need to be educating men and others to change their behaviour rather than just focusing on women. It's the culture that needs to change. And to create that change, we need to be intentional. We also need visibility. We need women out there in the boardroom, on the field, in the park, everywhere. We need to have that diversity. We need environments to be able to participate, to learn, to try without fear of judgment, harassment or abuse. And of course, there's challenges in getting women involved in decision making. And I know Julia said that ITT have been working to give up their seat at the table. I heard a comment the other day that really resonated with me. Equality can feel like oppression when you're used to privilege. And for me, that's about if you have always sat at the table and someone asks you to give up your seat, then that may feel like you're being victimised. But in fact, we all need to make decisions for the common good. We all, men and women, need to challenge the status quo. I'm really pleased to see I've got an increasing number of male colleagues who won't sit on boards that don't have equal representation, who won't speak on panels unless there's equal representation. They know full well that diversity means strength. Culture is critical. It's about bringing that change, and it's not easy, and there are hard things to be done, but having a clear goal in mind is what can make the difference. There's also, of course, in recognising that difference, valuing it. We have different communication styles, not only in terms of men and women, but also within different cultures. And we need to understand and appreciate that. I wonder how many times you've heard or even used the phrase, "Why do you have to be so emotional?" Or the other side of the coin is, don't you have any emotion? And what that says is we often want people to be like us. We need to recognise that difference. There is value in difference and start to understand the benefits of that difference. As well as working in sport, I've worked in many areas. I was working with women and men in trades, so plumbers and painters and bricklayers and carpenters, and there were some real communication issues. So we ran a communications workshop, and it was almost a translation workshop because it was like the light had been switched on afterwards. After that workshop, I kept hearing, but when you said, I thought you meant, and so there had been all this translation occurring. That workshop helped clarify the differences and sort out lots of issues. The other thing we need is women out there to be visible for girls. If you can do it, if you can see it, you can be it. Active women, all shapes and sizes. Many of you would have seen the UK Girls Can campaign, which was also rolled out in Australia and had great impact. But then there can also be a lot of challenges. Kerry, can you just, next slide? This one here, this image, this athlete is Taylor Harris, an extremely talented athlete. She's an Australian rules football player. And apologies to those of you that think this isn't football, but this is the Australian version. After this image was published, Taylor received an avalanche of online attention. Attention of the worst kind. Vile, derogatory, misogynistic comments. The AFL, the sport responsible, took the image down because they were concerned. What she did was actually say, no, I'm an athlete and this is actually me, my peak performance. I want the image back. This behaviour that's occurring around it is completely inappropriate. And she garnered support from others in the sport, men and women, that what we have here is a picture of an amazing athlete achieving astounding results. She challenged the language. I'm sure many of you have heard the term, oh, you kick like a girl, or you run like a girl. What Taylor did is really challenge people to say, this is how you kick like a girl. She actually also participated in a kicking competition against other sportsmen and women in the same sport and beat lots of her male counterparts, all who showered her with great respect. So she called out the inappropriate behaviour, she reclaimed the language, she drew support, and since then there have been all sorts of programs around building on that language, kicking like a girl. Jump to the next slide, Kerry. One of the organisations that is very dear to my heart, Blue Earth Foundation, a community organisation in Australia, has been running programs providing safe, secure environments for girls and boys to really discover their full potential. And so here's a young woman in the north of Australia participating in the program, learning kicking, and this comment about the program is from a high school teacher. So a revelation to the enhancement of student emotional and social well-being, building self-confidence and self-esteem, and providing girls and boys with safe places where they can explore all types of movement provides a really solid foundation and really creates opportunities for success. What's important to do that is to continually challenge and change culture. I'm going to show you another program that's happening in Australia, and we will play a little video, but just before we do, this program it's called Daughters and Dads Active and Empowered. And while the program is about using fathers to help encourage young girls participate, it's also really teaching them to view and interrogate and question the predominant culture that stops girls from participating in the first place. So Kerry, if we can jump to that short video, it's 2 minutes, and then I'll talk a little bit more about the program.
It's quite alarming that less than 10% of girls do enough physical activity, and body image and self-esteem are major issues. Daughters and Dads Active and Empowered is a world-first lifestyle program targeting fathers as the agents of change to improve their daughters' physical activity levels, sport skills, and social and emotional well-being. Running over 9 weeks, the sessions provide evidence-based parenting education, as well as rough and tumble play,
Apologies everyone, I've just been told that you're not able to see the video, so bear with me a second as I try and reshare.
I'm just going to talk while you try and do that, Kerry, and just explain. I think one of the things that I love about the program is it's actually teaching both fathers and little girls about the construction of gender. And so that may seem like a lofty topic, but the sorts of things at the end of the day, it's basically getting them to think through society's expectations and challenge them. So the girls learn about things, the fathers learn about things, and then they come back and talk in the session. And so one day, one of the little girls, when I was there, they were asking, what have you learned since the last time and what have you done? And she said, my teacher asked for 3 strong boys to move the chairs, and I put my hand up and said, I'm strong and I can move the chair. And it's a really small thing, but she'd learned through this program that she was strong and that she was more than within her rights to actually tell people that. Any luck, Kerry?
Oh, okay, let's try now, Wendy.
All right.
It's quite alarming that less than 10% of girls do enough physical activity, and body image and self-esteem are major issues. Daughters and Dads Active and Empowered is a world-first lifestyle program targeting fathers as the agents of change to improve their daughters' physical activity levels, sport skills, and social and emotional well-being. Running over 9 weeks, evidence-based parenting education, as well as rough and tumble play, sport skills, and fitness. The program has demonstrated profound holistic health benefits, including enhanced well-being, physical activity levels, parenting skills, bonds between fathers and daughters. I think a real key to the program's success has been the strong partnership between the university, Port Waratah Coal Services, and the Hunter.
Huge impact on me, and it's really changed the way I want to teach.
It's really taught me about gender equity, and it's really impacted on both the girls and the boys I teach in my day-to-day situations as a teacher.
It's honestly amazing to see the life-changing experiences that the dads and daughters have together and the benefits that come from it.
The program has secured around $4 in funds, including a recent $2.4 million grant from the Office of Sport to scale up the program across New South Wales. And it's not just in Australia we're benefiting society, but internationally. Women in Sport UK are also rolling out the program across England, and that's really exciting because of the global relevance of the program. It has just been so rewarding to be able to provide a program that has such powerful benefits to society, particularly through between fathers and daughters, and affirming to dads that you matter in your daughter's life.
Fantastic. Thanks, Kerry. That's great. So if we can just jump back to the next slide, which is a quote from one of the fathers.
Outfit has a threefold mission. The first is really to service.
Sorted. So that next slide is a quote from a father, and is basically talking about how his daughter is empowered. Through the process of that program, one of the things that became really apparent is how important language is. And if you can jump to the next slide, Kerry. One of the really interesting things is that the same behaviour is often interpreted very differently depending on gender. And so this cartoon is highlighting that in terms of the difference between being assertive or being aggressive. But there's all sorts of things, and within that program, that's really what the little girls and their fathers were learning about and experiencing, is having their eyes opened to some of how society sees them. It's thinking about, as we complement women in sport, we often talk about a tennis player you may all have heard of, Serena Williams. She's often referred to as a great female tennis player. She's a great tennis player. And so it's simple, but it's language changes that then say, actually, we value her as an athlete, we value her equally. There are some amazing, in addition to that, Daddy, there are some amazing programs happening all around the world. Kerry, if you can just flick to the next and almost last slide, because I know I'm running out of time. There are a myriad of women's leadership programs. And one of the things I'm really pleased about with the Oceania one is we're working both with leaders of tomorrow, but also men in the organisations to talk about how we can work differently together, because I think that's really critical. There are also festivals of female fitness, mentoring programs, gender equity courses, and much, much more. The critical bit, of course, and I think the success of programs that make a difference is both being clear about the goal, but also evaluating. So knowing whether or not we have actually made a difference. I'm just going to finish off, you can flick to the last slide. I'm sure many of you have seen this, yes, this one, seen this picture in terms of equality and equity, and I always like to throw it in because invariably people talk about things being equal. And so, yes, things being equal, everyone gets to stand on a box, but if the fence in front of you is actually taller, then there's no equity in what your outcome is going to be. There's, of course, lots of ways to get there, and we're seeing all sorts of fabulous programs and innovative approaches around the world. I just want to finish off with a story from me. So working, one of the other organisations I work with is actually Women's International Stone Alliance. So women working with traditional stone techniques. Those of you, actually many parts of the world, have seen stone structures, fences and buildings. And there are women, obviously, who also do that work. The international organisation is new, and when we were sharing information about it, it will come as no surprise to most of you that there was some feedback that said, why do you need a women's organisation? It's probably the most common question that ever gets asked when you set up something. If you're trying to increase women's participation, you often need to have something special for a while. So when that happened and when we were questioned, the first thing we did was nothing, actually, because we wanted to see what the community out there would come back with. And much to my delight, as expected, the world has changed. And so there were male colleagues out there who stepped in and immediately replied, "You're why they need this." They actually need to be in a space where they feel supported, and if that means a women-only organisation to enable more women to come into the trades, then so be it, and you have our full support. And for me, that was very much about what we're about. For all of us, it is about working together to get to that point that Julia highlighted, and so importantly, diversity is strength, and we can only get there working together. So Thank you. I look forward to any questions you may have, and thanks again to TAFISA for holding this important seminar.
Thank you so much, Wendy. That was inspiring and empowering as always. Excuse Gaeton, can we keep everyone muted, please? Okay, so now we're going to open the floor just for a few minutes before we move on to the next speaker. But don't worry, if we don't get to your question this time, then we will be having a full open floor at the end. I'm just having a look. I can see a question here from Darlene Kluka. Darlene, are you wanting to ask Wendy, or would you like me to read the question? So Darlene has written.
How about if you just read the question, and then I'll hope Wendy can give me and the rest of us a fantastic answer.
Sounds good. And nice to see you, Darlene. So Darlene has written the programs that you have presented and discussed. Have you been able to evaluate and assess whether the programs are working? And she's written, please talk about the need for assessment and evaluation. Thank you.
Thanks very much for the question and for highlighting that really important and critical piece, because it's one of the challenges that we have in all fields, and certainly in this one, that good intent is actually rarely the problem. There are all sorts of programs out there and ideas and initiatives, and it's great, but really what we want is an evidence base. We have scarce funds. There are never enough dollars to do everything we want, and so we always want to invest in something that we know is going to deliver results. So yes, Darlene, certainly the Dads and Daughters program particularly has gone through an extraordinarily rigorous evaluation, and it helps sitting in a university where that's obviously a critical piece of it before it expands. Yes, the Blue Earth program has also gone through review and evaluation, and I'm trying to think of what other programs I mentioned. But yes, generally, I think it's a critical element, and certainly informs us about where to direct resources. There are times where you need to see new things, but they need to still be based on foundation components where there's an evidence base. So thank you for allowing me to highlight that issue, because I do think it's very, very important.
Would it be?
I think Darlene's got some more comments.
Darlene, you've been muted. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Would it be possible for Wendy to share some of those areas that you've been taking data points for? Because this sounds like a fabulous, I'm so impressed with this Dads and Daughters, but if other people begin that.
And share afterwards the evaluation and the key components of what the university are looking at, rather than to make lots of time now. But absolutely, I think it's a fabulous program for a whole range of reasons, but certainly my favourite part is deconstruction of gender for fathers and daughters. I think that's essential.
Thank you so much to Darlene, and thank you, Wendy. I'm looking at the chat box here, and I can see there's a lot of interest about the Daughter and Dads program, a lot of interest about people wanting to implement within their own countries. Of course, we will share your presentation with all of the participants afterwards, so they're able to learn a little bit more. I think for now, just to be conscious of the time, I would like to thank you so much, Wendy. And now I will pass over to Julia, who will be presenting. I will share your presentation for you now, Julia. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie, and also thank you, Wendy, for this very inspiring and empowering presentation, and also videos. Really interesting. Yes, okay. Before we start, I would like to just say a few words about the ITTF Foundation, because I don't think that everyone knows the ITTF Foundation. Carrie, can you go to the next slide? So we are a non-profit organization which was established in 2018 by the International Table Tennis Federation, and we're the official corporate social responsibility arm with the motto Solidarity through Table Tennis. So just for you to understand, the foundation was created to offer development through sport programs that are more specific and can be more aggressive in achieving a social impact, empowering girls and women. Next slide, please. Yes, so for us, we like to make the table tennis community a role model and have positive social change and empowerment through sport. So, as mentioned before, gender equity is not yet achieved, and also not in table tennis, for example, we only have like 10% female decision makers in table tennis. So we also look forward to address this. Next slide, please. Yes, our mission is then to use table tennis as an enabler for gender equity. To give you an idea, we're really happy that progress has been made in recent years. Significantly, the establishment of equal prize money for female and male players at events that are hosted by the International Table Tennis Federation and World Table Tennis. Also, we have a female CEO between 2011 and 2017. We have a gender module within an online administration course, and also several actions taken by the High Performance and Development Department of the ITTF, as good example. Next slide, please. To also give you an idea how the foundation works, so we work through 5 programs, which also includes the TT, so table tennis for all program, to not only promote our sport and its benefits to a broad and diverse audience, but also to foster development through sport. This means we're using the sports as a method of attracting more people to play and working with them on different topics to also improve their daily life. Can go ahead, please. Yes, and within this Table Tennis for All program, we have created in 2015 the project World Table Tennis Day, which is celebrated annually on the April 6th, which also marks the International Day of Sport for Development and Peace. Maybe some of you already know. Next slide, please. The World Table Tennis Day is a socially inclusive day, which we actually use as a kind of an excuse to celebrate our sport for one day, with the ultimate aim to keep as many people as possible from diverse walks of life involved with table tennis. So we try to motivate others to join and to also organize their own events in their community. And with the World Table Tennis Day, we focus on 3 pillars, which is popularity, universality, and very important for gender equity, inclusiveness. Next slide, please. So to give you also an understanding, so the World Table Tennis Day is working in the framework of the Sport for All movement. And to just show you, for example, the popularity, you can see here a map with the countries and independent territories that were celebrating the World Table Tennis at Home Day 2020, at Home Day because of COVID-19. But yet to see, and it was 171, which means it was over 75% of all our member associations who had active participants for the World Table Tennis Day. And we have it more like a celebration of fun and joy, and concentrate less on competition. Next slide, please. What makes the World Table Tennis Day successful? So, to give you an overview, we also had, last year we didn't have that many participants, so it was only, I think, 4,000 something, and before we had 700,000 people participating because we had so many big events hosted by people from everywhere. And we're focusing on companionship, and people also can identify with the concept, and we're also guiding the people, so we have continuous publicity. So for example, we're on our promotion starts already 6 months before April 6th, so on October 6th also this edition we have started a bi-weekly newsletter which is a guide to use table tennis for the specific topic, and this year's topic is empowerment and gender equality, of course. We also support people by online support, so on our social medias, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, in LinkedIn we have, for example, the Inspirational Women series, where we share stories of women in the table tennis community at the moment. We also have WhatsApp and emails so that people can contact us directly if they face any difficulties and need some help. And we also have free and editable promotional material in now 20 different languages, but to be even more popular and universal and inclusive, everyone is welcome to their language, of course. Another key of success that really everyone can organize and register an event. So it's not only for national associations, but it's really for a single person in the community who likes to just do something. And it is fun to watch that each event is always different and very special. And the events that are registered on our website, we publish them so in a map, so that people can also look on the map. For example, if an event is happening in their community, or for example, that they can join or organize on their own or organize together. Also, World Table Tennis Day, well, it lives thanks to the thousands of people worldwide who share the joy of just playing table tennis. And we also want to recognize their effort and participation with, for example, certificates of appreciation and participation. We also had in the past shirts and special prizes, for example, for people who organize the most inclusive events. They receive balls and robots and other equipment, like even table tennis tables. And also we also always a video and a report as the event, and there also people can be included. And for example, in 2020 we tried to create the longest table tennis online rally, which was roughly 30 minutes, and we had for 2021, to come back to the empowerment and gender equity topic. Our vision is that we want to encourage the worldwide table tennis, but also the worldwide sports community to work on female empowerment and gender equity. Because the equity of all gender identities means promoting inclusion and diversity. And yet, unfortunately, we're still facing gender inequalities, racism, and intolerances worldwide. Next slide, please. And we also have the mission, to give you an understanding why we also created, or why we chose this topic, is that it's also in table tennis, not only in table tennis, sport general, we have a low participation rate of women and girls. And now also with COVID-19 on the rise, women and girls face an increase of violence because they're, for example, at home and don't have any other safe spaces. And therefore we decided to contribute to the UN Sustainable Development Goal 5, gender equality, but also to one of the goals of TAFISA, TAFISA's 2030 mission. What we expect from it is that we hope to engage females who usually would not play or interact in physical activity overall, that we increase the awareness of gender inequity and also raise inclusiveness, that the people who organize an event, they can increase the self-esteem and confidence of the women and girls joining, which is so important, that they can also develop skills and knowledge, and that it can be boosted to get women and girls participate, to perform in table tennis, but also in sport, but also to become a female leader and role model. Next slide, please. For that purpose, we also have the World Table Tennis Day Promoters Initiative created, which, by the way, people are still welcome to participate, to apply for the next 2 days. So the deadline is 10th of March. And for this initiative, we wanted to have an even bigger impact in the community, because, well, we're here sitting in Leipzig, and of course we help people and we want to guide them. For example, we want to give them the tools to promote the sport and tackle social issues, for example, through our bi-weekly newsletter. But of course, we know that the people within the respective community, they know better what they can do, and they can also come up with ideas or even solutions which are even better addressed to tackle the inequity there. So for us, it's important that they share, of course, the values of inclusiveness, and that they organize a World Table Tennis Day event to raise awareness and motivate others to join, and of course to take action toward gender inequities. Next slide, please. So also, just join us here. Just some impressions that you can see from past World Table Tennis Day events. Next slide, please. To give you also an understanding, so we chose this topic of empowerment also to map out the current status within our 226 member associations. So at the moment we're also trying to increase the female media presence, because women and girls, sometimes mostly are like focusing on the beauty, and they are not really seen like how they are joyful and show emotions, and that's also why we join other organizations to not only celebrate the International Women's Day, but to make March a Women's Month. So we actually extended our celebrations for 5 weeks, so from the 1st of March to then leading up to the 6th of April, which will be the World Table Tennis Day. And after April 6th, we will analyze the situation of the gender equity in the table tennis community, and from there we will see what the next steps will be. But of course, as I mentioned before, we have an Inspirational Women series, and that we definitely continue to promote and to get more females on board. Also to, of course, increase the female media presence and presenting them in an appropriate way. Next slide, please. So to also give you one key element for our future step is actually a conference which will take place in 2 hours. So right after this workshop here, to contribute also successfully to empower girls and women in sport for all. Their experts will discuss the live current status of gender equity and how to use the sport as a tool for female empowerment. And the online conference is open to all and includes an open question and answer session. And as you can see, we have also high-profile panelists from the International Olympic Committee and Paralympic Committee, and also 3 from the table tennis community. Okay, I think I'm at the end. Next slide, please. Yes, question and answer. So yes, I hope I could give you some input from table tennis community. Thank you, Carrie, for sharing. And yeah.
Thank you so much, Julia, and thank you again for partnering with us today. That was an incredible presentation.
Thank you also for asking us to join this wonderful workshop. Thank you.
Pleasure. Just having a look in the chat to see if any questions have come through, or if anyone has a question, feel free to raise your hand also.
Just want to say to people who are interested after this 2-hour workshop, my colleague Chiara, she just included the registration link for our conference later on. So if you can't get enough.
Thank you, Julia. I think I'm trying to find some questions.
If there are no questions, I think time-wise we can move forward.
I can just see Darlene's popping up again there. Maybe I'll just ask this one and then we can open the floor again at the end. How did the World Table Tennis Day come about, Julia? I think this is quite interesting to learn.
The World Table Tennis Day, well, in 2015 it was still not the ITTF Foundation, but the International Table Tennis Federation, and there we had a development program, and we wanted to get even more the sport development part than the sport development part, and we thought the World Table Tennis Day is a nice opportunity to, well, of course, first of all, increase the participation of table tennis, but also to make it inclusive, to have people from all around the world who are not really interested, but in sports or in table tennis, to just come along. So many events also just happen on the streets. So maybe not this year, we will see about that. But it's more like a bring a friend and come along, just join, because what is really nice about table tennis is you don't have to have that much strength. I mean, not muscle-wise. Of course, you have to have power and everything, but yeah, it is easy to participate, and that was also an idea for us to create the World Table Tennis Day. I hope that answers the question.
Thanks, Julia. Maybe just one more quick question. I think this might be coming from our friend and colleague Nalanya from African Union Sports Council, who has asked what the ITTF Foundation is doing in terms of development of table tennis.
I think it is more a sport development question, and therefore it would be our within the ITTF group, it would be the High Performance and Development Department, who are also then keeping track of the development of table tennis in Africa and also on the other continents, of course.
Thank you so much, Julia. I think without further ado, I will now pass the floor to Mariette, and then we can open the floor again at the end. So, Mariette, I will share your presentation, and the floor is yours.
Thanks very much, and thanks to my fellow speakers as well. It's really great to hear all these different perspectives, and I'm joining you all from Amsterdam, from the Netherlands. My colleagues Claire and Elena are also somewhere on the screen, so they joined me as well. It's wonderful to be here on International Women's Day with so many like-minded and passionate people, I think, to make a difference for girls through sport. And I'm going to share a little bit with you what Nike is doing on the subject of gender equity in community sport. So our purpose is really to unite the world through sport, to create a healthy, balanced, active communities and equal playing fields for all. And Made to Play, as you see here, is our commitment to getting kids active, and especially those with the least opportunity to enjoy the benefits of sport. So I'll talk a little bit about how our community and programs are committed to getting kids and especially girls moving. Because I think we all know that girls who move lead healthier and more successful lives. So Carrie, if you please start the video to start with.
Don't let our cute smiles fool you. We take play pretty seriously. Not all of us get the same opportunities to stay active as girls.
त्यो अस्ति तपाईलाई मैले पठाएको कुन लेटर भन्नुभएको खै के छ म हेर्नै पर्छ के छ हजुर हुन्छ सर म हेरेर के रहेछ हेर्नु सर म यहाँ ल सर हुन्छ नि त्यसो ल ल
Know that way too many children do in fact not get that required 60 minutes of physical activity a day, and that means that they are not running, not cycling, not playing football maybe, and that can have a lot of negative consequences later in their life. But it also means that they're far less likely to join that organized sports club or membership, and that's something that's not okay for us, and that's something that we really want to change. So we can go on to the next slide, Kerry. We believe that all kids love to move and should get the opportunity to do so, and when and how they like to do it especially. And that's why with Made to Play, Nike is committed to getting all kids, regardless of social background, gender, ability or race, active. Because there's so many benefits, like we said, right? You can learn better in school, make new friends, learn how to plan and be organized, learn how to deal with challenges also, and improve your health, and more importantly, your mental health also. If we go to the next slide, Kerry, we'll see that, especially girls, and I don't need to tell you experts in the room this, that girls face more barriers to play and sport, and fewer opportunities also are available to them. And I know we're here with a very diverse group from all over the world, and it's parts of the world where girls drop out twice the rate that boys do, for reasons that can often be prevented. So by age 14, we've already lost about half of the group of girls that we were working with before. And that can be due to a lack of supportive or female coaches, for example, or environments that simply aren't welcoming to girls. And the COVID-19 pandemic, we heard it already from the colleagues, is that that's made leveling the playing field even more difficult for girls and even more challenging. Next, please. So, as all of us here today, and you're part of the TAFISA network, you know more than anyone that we are all designed to move. Our bodies are not meant to sit still all day. But if you are 7 years old and you aren't able to learn those really fundamental movement skills, then it's much harder to enjoy that love for sport when you're older. If you don't have that good quality PE teacher or coach, then it's much harder for you to get to fall in love with sport. And so in 2012, 2013, we launched something called Design to Move, which is a report that reveals the growing epidemic of physical inactivity. And this is still available also on TAFISA's website with a toolkit with it. And it really gives you an overview of that urgent action that we need to take against physical inactivity, and also a really simple action agenda that can help us solve the inactivity crisis amongst children. And we still use this after all these years as a great resource to educate ourselves, our teams, and our partners on the issues that are really underpinning today's inactivity crisis. Next, please. But we're also here to really focus on a few practical ideas and solutions, right? So how do we collectively make the situation better, especially for girls? And for us, through Made to Play, that means that we start with the most at risk of dropping out of sport. So that can be in anywhere in the world. We run our programs. For us, for my team specifically, it's in Europe, Middle East, and Africa, where we deliver across 10 countries to about 50,000 kids every week. So it's a regular programs that we run with our partners, not just one-off events, but week in, week out. Those coaches are there on the pitch. And so we work with the FCB Foundation, Barcelona Foundation. For example, we work with the Active Schools program in Soweto, and with a partner called Sport à la Ville in Paris, just to name a couple of examples. Next slide. So Made to Play is really our long-term strategy to change the game for girls and grow the game for her in a way that allows her to play on her terms. That means that we always, as much as possible, get input and ideas from the girls themselves, but also from the coaches that we work with. We invest in programs and tools to give girls that positive experience that we talked about. So we start with fun, and we invest in learning fundamental movement skills from the age of 7. Because research again shows that if you have that first 10 years of a child's life, that's the critical window for development. So if we can start that experience from a young age, they are far more likely to enjoy sports during puberty, for example, which is that really vulnerable age for girls especially to drop out of sport. Next, please. We know that girls actually frequently enjoy sports at a very high rate, right? We know that girls also love being competitive and feeling athletic and love building their own goals as a team, but they simply have extra challenges to overcome. And we talked earlier about conflicting cultural messages, what it means to be a girl. Wendy talked about it, what it means to be an athlete. But it can also be because of very traditionally male-centered sports spaces like kickboxing or football. And there just aren't simply enough female role models in that space. Next. And we know that the coach, and you saw this in the video earlier, is absolutely crucial in keeping her in the game. And that's why a lot of our work actually is built upon expert partners to train, recruit, and celebrate quality coaches. So we frequently build new tools that are then available for free on our website that all of our partners can download that can help improve the training experience for girls. So in 2020, just last year, we launched something called Coaching Girls Guide, which is in partnership with Youth Sport Trust International and We Coach in the US, and contains a toolkit of 5 pillars that help recruit and retain girls in sport. And on the next slide, you will see an example, and as I said, free to download from the site. It's really designed for program leaders and coaches who are looking to create that more welcoming environment for girls. If we go to the next slide, I want to show you an example of a program that again has proved very popular during lockdown, and one that I would recommend to all of you here, and that's the website Active Kids Do Better, which we launched a couple of years ago. Elena here in the room built it actually in partnership with Discovery Education. And this is a platform where you can find very simple videos and instructions, lesson ideas essentially, for activities at home, on the playground, maybe in your small garden or in your classroom if you're working with schools. And they're really simple and fun ways to be active with your whole team or your family. As so many of us are still being forced to stay inside, we can still have an activity to do, but it's also a way for us to act as a coach. So definitely go and check that out, and they're all again for free on that website. So then I want to show you a very special project. So as the largest sportswear company in the world, Nike, we know that we have need to have access to the right product. And with the right product, I don't always mean the fastest shoe or the nicest looking leggings, but also products that can help remove that barrier of enjoyment. And so with this, we're also trying to tackle perhaps some more taboo issues, like a sports bra for young girls, for example. And so over the past couple of years, we donated 50,000 sports bras to girls all over the world that we paired up with educational materials. So it wasn't just about her receiving the bra, but it was very much about giving inspiration and tools also to her coach to then talk about the importance of a sports bra. Because we know that, again, helps to improve that experience when she's developing her body but still wants to play sport. And then secondly, we also launched something called Project Hijab earlier this spring, a couple of months ago, where we donate sport hijabs to local communities and again pair that with a coach playbook. So it's really a tool to help coaches, male and female, create more welcoming and safe environments for Muslim girls especially, because we know that that's a large group of girls who typically tend to be a bit lower on the participation ranking, and that's something that we really want to change. So if we go to the next slide, we brought together an international group of Muslim coaches and girls and program leaders from all over the world, and we started to talk to them about what would we need to do to design these right tools, because I'm personally not an expert. So what we did was bring those experts together and make sure that we designed that with them. And so for the girls, it meant having access to the right product and making sure they could be active. But it also meant showing more hijabi athlete role models to foster that next generation of athletes and make sure that really these girls don't feel maybe alienated or alone when they're in a team of other girls that perhaps aren't wearing the hijab because they have a different faith or a different background. And so that part was really important for us to create and co-create those tools. So on the next slide, you see a quick overview of our range of tools that are available, again, to download from the website. The playbook, the inspiration card, which we have in different languages as well. And I'd love for you to check them out. And if you have ideas on how we can improve these, also feel free to obviously reach out to us. So finally then, I'm going to close with our latest video that is supporting this work, hopefully with a bit of dose of energy and inspiration, and then I'll hand back to you, Carrie. Thank you.
Valued about sport is the opportunity to grow. We know that through sport we harness power to change the world, and that has been, I think, the mantra to my life.
I, as a person, have grown and gained so much confidence and became the bubbly JJ, and that's all thanks to sport, that's all thanks to football. It has given me a platform, it has given me so much confidence, and to this day I'm very thankful.
I believe that sports is an international language that appeals to every single human being in the world. Regardless of your religion, of your race, of your gender, we can all be doing the same exact thing for one similar goal.
Just be true to yours. Just focus on your goals. Never let anything distract you. Just love what you do. Give it 100%, and trust me, if you do that, your success is, and you don't have to say anything. You just focus and just go for it and just do it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Maria. I think I can speak on behalf of everyone when I say that was a tremendous, empowering, inspiring presentation, and especially highlighting the importance of the intersectionality. Also, when we think about how we empower and inspire young girls and women, we need to think about the different challenges and the different hurdles that young girls and women have in front of them. One question I saw come up quite a lot was from a lot of interested organisations who are wondering how can they get involved with these programs that Nike is offering.
Yeah, sure, and thanks everyone. I haven't been able to scan through the chat, but thanks for your comments, and I'm sure Carrie and the team can also help if there's anything else we need to follow up on. So first of all the tools that I showed are available on our website, and so if you go to nike.com/made to play, you'll be able to find the videos and the coaches guides there. And then what we are doing, we're in the process of setting up similar to this online Zoom training sessions where we can invite people to join and where we're going into like a deep dive of these guides. So definitely happy to follow up on that and extend the invitation so that people can join those sessions as well.
Thank you so much, Mariette. I think that was the majority of questions were people wanting to get involved. So I think we can move on for now. But once again, thank you for such a fantastic presentation. So now I'm going to offer the floor to the FLOT mentees. So we're being joined today by Kaya, Lily, Annalena, and Carol. There we go. So the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Yeah, just starting to share the presentation. Yeah, hello. My name is Kaya. I'm a sport management student from Germany, and I'm part of TAFISA's Female Leaders program. It is an honor and a great opportunity for us today to talk about the project and also to share our experiences as young female leaders. It is still a long way to go, but we are ready to take the necessary steps. We, the female leaders of tomorrow. Who are we? Tinka from Slovenia, Lily from South Africa, Carol from Zambia, Annalena from Zimbabwe, and me. We are the representatives of the mentees of the FLOT project. Due to internet connection, unfortunately, Lily and Annalena can't be here with us today, but they have been also part to prepare this presentation for this event today. What do we want to share? First, I will just give a quick overview of the FLOT project, and then we will talk about our motivation to join the project and also about what empowers us. Further on, we will talk about our future aspirations and which barriers we still face as young women in sports. And last, we will end the presentation with changes we want to see in the future, especially as females in the sport environment. So we are 20 mentees and 11 mentors from 14 different countries from Europe and Africa. And besides TAFISA, there are also 3 more partners, as mentioned before, involved in the project. What is the project about? The project includes a comprehensive mentoring program. Each of us is part of a trio composed of an African mentee, a European mentee, and also a mentor either from Africa or Europe. Within our trios, we are asked to design and develop own projects supported and guided by our mentors. Through this process, we are able to develop leadership competences, to gain knowledge, and also to build strong and inspiring connection, especially within our trios. Initially, the project would have also included 3 mobilities, but obviously due to the current situation of COVID-19, we able to meet in person yet, but maybe we will later this year. What are our experiences so far? We get engaged with women from different countries and have learned that even though we are in different countries, we are somehow having similar problems that we can find similar solutions for through our exchange and the projects we do together. The exchange is very valuable for us to learn about the other mentees' experiences and challenges. Carol and me found out that even though there are differences in Zambia and Germany, that the core problems such as safety issues, discrimination and sexualization of women in sports remain the same. Why did we join the project, or what is our motivation to join the project? From my personal side, I've been involved in Sport for All and volunteering already for quite a while, and motivated to create positive change through sport. And sometimes this striving for change can feel quite lonely in our daily lives. So the Vlog project is just a great opportunity to meet people who also strive towards the same goal. Obviously also to gain new experiences, to learn how we can give hope to other young girls, and to create positive change through sport, and also hopefully to get prepared to become female leaders.
So why do we find so inspiring about the project? Actually, the quote here on the side is the best summary, and it goes like, the most empowering aspect of the project, in my opinion, is to meet all other young women being involved in sports and motivated to create change. Because you're surrounded around these young, strong women, future leaders, you really want to help each other grow, think outside the box, and create solutions for the problem we face. That's why I think this project will really give us a lot of opportunities, new knowledge, and chances to exchange our experience in sports for all, so we can really become future leaders of tomorrow. So through our lives, as women, we face obstacles related to the fact that we are female. When we were talking between ourselves, we actually figured out that men from Africa and Europe have quite the same experience. And the first one was that men feel superior to women in any place or industry, especially in male-dominant areas. As a woman, I personally have come across people, especially in sports, thinking that I'm not good enough or capable enough, or that men are just better fit for the job. Second one is also when women achieve the same results or even better one, men feel embarrassed, and sometimes you start to comment inappropriate things that can really hurt your self-esteem, your career, or your life. For example, one of the mentees said that she got comments like, you look like a man, you're doing drugs, you're doing doping, and these comments can have some serious consequences to your life. Also a big issue I have experienced last month was constantly getting interrupted while I was giving a lecture. The same guy even made fun in front of everybody of how I pronunciated one word. I really felt like embarrassed and comfortable, and it was like this really weird feeling that somebody will always interrupt you and even make fun because you don't know how to pronunciate one word. And it was not even Slovenian word, because Slovenian is my mother language. It was word from Russia, a Russian language. So of course I didn't know how to pronounce it correctly. Also another barrier is that people are focusing on our looks instead of our work and results, and the same goes for representation of women in media. And the last thing is constantly forgetting that there are women in sports too. Usually people are talking and focusing only on men's sports. Also in the university, in the lectures, they are forgetting about women, and only when you ask them, what about women? Are there women in sports too? Oh yeah, then they remember. We have also women in that area. So it's really sad that it's perceived as normal that the sport environment is male dominant. Therefore, our inspiration is to see women being treated equally as men. So sport for women. We also want to, throughout the sports, create a safe environment where people can learn to respect each other and help each other. As well, I think this is really important to teach girls that sports and exercise is not about being skinny, but it's the means to build strength, health, confidence, and self-respect. So we go now to Carol.
Thank you, Tinka. I think I'll just take it up from what she's talked. So from this project, what change do we want to see? Okay, so first of all, the first change that we want to see after this project is more women in leadership positions. We've observed that in almost all the organizations, we find that we have more men taking up leadership positions at the top level, while women are left under to take up maybe subordinate positions. I was surprised that I think 2 weeks ago I attended an African conference for my sports judo. I was surprised to find myself, I think we're just the two of us, only 2 women, and there were about 36 country representatives, meaning that in those countries they don't have female representatives who are taking up the top management positions. So it's our hope that in future, after this project, we are able to see change. We see more women in leadership positions. Then the other thing that we want to see is sports for all. We want all women to be involved in sports, regardless of their physical appearance, regardless of their difficulties that they go through. Yes, so we want sports for all. We want women to be involved in all sports. Then the other change that we look forward to is platforms that will allow exchange or maybe to be heard, so that women can have a platform where they can maybe express their feelings, express what they think, because most of the time a lot of women do not have self-esteem. They fail to stand up like in a group of people. But if we have this platform where we'll have women express themselves and maybe share barriers that they face when they try to take up leadership positions, I think it would be a good change to see. Then we also want to have national women games, like in each country. Maybe we should have a promotion of national women games, such that women can be able to involve themselves in those games and maybe take part in those games that they feel like they can't take part because they're male dominated. So I think it will just give them motivation and a boost just to go for those games, because they all know that they are women. They'll be free to participate and they won't be judged anyhow. Then the other thing is equal representation in media. I can give an example of my country. We find that most sports codes that have a lot of women, they do not appear in media. Or we find that if a man does well, they'll be everywhere in media. But if a woman brings maybe back a gold medal, there'll just be maybe a small portion in the paper, or maybe just a small piece in social media, or maybe the newscast. They'll just talk about that. For girls, they're not given that chance. So if women are also given the equal representation in media, I think that would motivate young girls. They'll have people that they'll look up to. Then we also need safe spaces for girls. We need safe environments for sports girls, because most girls are scared to go to these sports facilities that do not have any safety. We can say maybe girls are scared to be harassed or maybe to be abused. So we need sports places that will be safe, and they'll provide safety to all the girls that will participate in those sports courts. Yes, I think from that one, I think I can give it up to Kaya to conclude.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening to our presentation. I hope we could just briefly explain which changes we want to see or which barriers we face. And yeah, then I will give to Carrie to ask some questions.
Thank you so much to Kaya, Tinka and Carol for a phenomenal presentation. You sold the FLOP project far better than I ever could, so I think I know who to call on anytime I have future presentations. It was fantastic, and I think that I can speak on behalf of all participants that are joining us right now to see how wonderful it is to hear about the experiences of young women as you go through your journey to become the next generation of Sport for All leaders. I think it would be great for the participants to know about the individual projects that the three of you are working on for the FLOP project. So maybe Tinka, you could go first and just explain a little bit about what your individual project is and what you're aiming to achieve with it.
Yeah, so our main goal is to raise people awareness of physical activity and try to explain and present to the people the meaning of proper exercise, because if you don't exercise correctly, then you can injure yourself, and in the worst case scenario you need to stop, and then actually you don't have any benefit of being active. So this is like our main goal, but also we want to create an environment where everyone will feel safe, accepted, respected, no matter their differences, because I think that when people start feeling those things, that you are respected and accepted for who you are, that's it, we won, because then there is no more space for aggression and mistreating people. So we have actually quite two goals. One is to raise people awareness for correctly exercising, and the second one is trying to create a safe environment for everyone. Now Kaya and Carol, I know they have a project together, so I don't know which one of you will represent.
Yeah, maybe I can just briefly summarize the project Carol and me are doing together. We are actually developing leadership program for young girls through sport for development activities and interactive workshops. So this is actually the part where we try to give back what we are learning through the FLOP project to younger girls. The project is focusing on activities to build up competences, leadership competences such as responsibility, self-trust, and also decision making. So that's actually what we want to do, and we want to implement this project in already existing structures. So I'm, for example, already working in a local rugby club, and I have a group of girls with a refugee background, and that's the group I will try to implement the project for. Carol, do you maybe want to add from the Zambian side?
Okay, so my project, the project we're implementing it in already organized settings. So I have judokas. I've got about 10 girls that I'm working with, and I'm trying to implement this project with them. Our project is mainly about leadership competences, which we believe that if it starts at a younger age, it will mature in them. They'll grow up with it, and they'll be able to have self-esteem and have confidence. Yes, so our project is mainly an interactive project with the young girls. Yes.
Thank you so much to the three of you. I have a second question for you, and then I think we can open the floor and see what questions have been asked in the chat. But in your own capacity and within your own setting, I know that you take this position of being the next leader of the Sport for All movement with so much fire and passion and motivation. So how do you think that you, as a young woman, can contribute to the empowerment of others within your own setting?
Okay, maybe I can go first. So I'm working closely with women of all age groups, from young girls to the elder ladies. What I try is to give them the mentality of working out for their health and for feeling good and powerful in their skin. Because when I start to work out, I really feel so strong that I can achieve everything. And I really want to give them this feeling of empowerment. And also the second one is about teenager. As I said, and then the sports as a means to give themselves, woman, and they need to look like her and be perfect in every way. And those ideas of perfection are actually misguided because there is no such thing as perfect. So I really try to represent sports to them just to be healthy and to exercise because you love that. I'm actually from gymnastics, and if you know the sports, like girls need to be really, really, really skinny. And I'm actually one of the only coaches there to say, no, you don't need to be skinny, you need to be healthy. So that's how I try to empower other people.
Yeah, maybe I can add on there. So besides the project Carol and me are doing through developing leadership competences within young girls, I think it is also in our responsibility to build awareness for gender topics in general, also in our personal environment. So for example, as Tinka mentioned before, I'm studying sports management, and the topics we're talking about, the examples we're getting, it is mainly about male sports. And me as a female, I just feel underrepresented. And that's where I think it is my responsibility to raise questions within seminars, raise questions and say, well, okay, we've talked about male sports now. What about women in sports? Are there examples? Can we talk about that as well? And I personally had the experience that when I started to raising questions, also the lecturers started to reflect on that. Also, the other students started to reflect on that. And I think that's also a main part where we can play a role in raising awareness for gender issues.
Thank you so much, Kaya.
Okay, so just to add on a few from what they've talked about. Okay, so my role as a leader or a young leader, I'm trying to empower women through motivation and mentoring young girls. It's very rare, like in my setting, to have a role model, a leader, a female leader. It's very rare. Mostly we have a lot of males who are leaders. So it's for young girls to just look up to someone. It's very difficult. So I'm setting up a standard where they can have people that they would look at and say that, okay, I want to be like that woman. I want to take up this leadership position. So I'm trying to maybe empower them with knowledge and also to encourage them to concentrate on studies, because it's very common, like in my setup, for young girls to drop out of school. They drop out of school, maybe in primary school. They drop out. So it will be very difficult for them if they have to take up any leadership position because they are not educated. They don't have any literacy in them. They don't know how to read. So my concentration is on education. Like it's very easy for them if they are educated to get any leader position as a woman, because as a leader in my setting, like you have to be almost perfect. They need you to do maybe 10 times to prove a point that you are able to take up this position. They can't just give you a position when they know that you can't even try. So you have, because they are not educated. So like I've stated, I'm working with some girls who I'm trying to maybe just open their minds to make sure that they concentrate on school, because they will not, in future they won't have any leadership positions to take up if they are not educated. So that's my main concentration. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Kaya, Tinka and Carol, and also thank you to Lily and Onalena, who I know contributed to the presentation but were unable to connect. Looking at the comments that have been made, I can see that just there's so many people that are so inspired by how powerful you all speak, and the passion and the motivation that you have, and to reflect on what Wendy had said, that we definitely feel like the future of Sport for All is in safe hands with you as the next leaders. I think we have time for to open the floor for some questions and answers before we move on to the concluding comments. But first of all, I'd just like to say a huge hearty thank you to all of the fantastic speakers that we had today. I think the presentations were phenomenal. I think that we all learned something today. for sure we will be sharing the presentations so that you're able to get all the information that was shown. There was such interesting input. Yes, I'm going to look through the chat and see if there's any questions there, but otherwise feel free to raise your hand in case you haven't written anything yet. And we'll open the floor for maybe 6 or 7 minutes now. I can see there's a question here that's come from Laura Maria Tilda, and it's addressed to the flock participants, but I think this is a question that could go wider, because it would be interesting to hear from all the speakers if you see an increase of male allies that are supporting the gender equality cause. Maybe we could ask this to all of the speakers. Wendy, would you like to take the floor first?
Sure. Then I would say yes, definitely. And that because I've been around such a long time and things were so bad in the beginning. But I've definitely noticed that I can rely on male allies. And I think one of the big things that's changed for me is so often I would be the voice in the room challenging things and raising issues, and I would be the one saying, you really need, can't have a board that is all men, can't have this, we really need some women. What I'm really encouraged by is that I do have male allies who are speaking that now, who are raising those issues. And while we have them, we can absolutely do with more of them.
Thank you, Wendy. The same question to you, Julia.
I think the FLOT project is already a great program for us to be mentored by a woman or a man who's experienced in the field. Like, it's really great to have a personal mentor because I think in our work environment, for example, I'm also working as a student assistant. We have a personal advisor for us. We can ask any question. So I think this is really helpful to have this personal connection. And then also, I think for us, it's helpful. Sometimes there's just a lack for us on platforms or, like where we can share.
Okay, Tinka and Carol, if you would you like to add something?
I think I already said everything. This we'll be able to learn from the women who've already passed through our stage, who are already taking up big positions that we want to take up in future. So it will be a very good platform for us to learn from.
Wonderful, thank you so much. I wish that we had more time for further questions, but unfortunately we have ran out. But I think the success and the input that we've had today certainly calls us to action, to the need to have further virtual workshops where we can bring together members of the Global Sport for All movement and discuss such topical and valuable issues. I think, yes, I would just like to say once again, I can't